They killed, give me Isaiah 14 and 21. They did the same thing to my people. So you said that they put millions of my people. Yes, you said. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right. That's right.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog.
I'm in a hell of a hole, was never expected to grow. Just obstacles set in the road, that a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never our home, only a place of captivity, saved facility, hating, disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe this slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting, the trail of my tears is countless. Main fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angel, be ready to rap. Crack in the sky, nuclear missiles and make it official. I'm capturing every cracker surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be, slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash, get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood slim. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember your Honda's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Von Dale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in a world of mad shooters. Devils design fire for our babies to pass through. In the day of our king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
It was all good just a week ago. Riding through the hood with my speakers low. I wish a nigga would try my peoples though. We out back staking houses when the beef would go. Oh, tiptoeing in my Jordans. White or brown, look up, pick your poison. They ain't patting down what? Okay, a tie, bring the fours in. Hip full of heat and it's scorching, scorching. We don't talk too much, you niggas overshare. Only time to function jumping when we over there. Yeah, it's that UPK soldier gear, REI ice with the fur like a polar bear. And my shorty, she a rider. Pistol in her purse like to hide her. Monet in her power. Only operate how I allow her. You just talk the game, Colin Coward. I'm fresher than the produce at Whole Foods. You ain't stepping how I'm stepping, that's my old shoes. Told you you ain't fucking with me and that's old news. We'll record you beat up on camera, not pro. It's the vibe. We the realest niggas at the tribe. Feel it, put your pistols in the sky. You know this the vibe. Playing like you got a lot of lives. Really, nigga, you don't wanna die. You know this the vibe. Nigga, we the realest at the tribe. Feel it, put your pistols in the sky. You know this the vibe. Playing like you got a lot of lives. Really, nigga, you don't wanna die. You know this the vibe. That UPK cover got some stripes on it. G-shot, not a lot of ice on it. Not a lot of niggas take this price shit. I can bet my life on it. You'll get your shot and go light on it. I go tie game OT, last bucket of the night, and go mic on it, sights on it. I don't need a beam. Make a nigga wake up like a fucking bad dream. You sent shots, I'm sick of her fucking vaccine. Yeah, I mean, I ain't a killer, Brody. I ain't had to be one. But get it twisted, I start to popping like I'm rerun. Living like a sucker ain't no option. Where we from? I was told go and get a gun and keep one. Tribe vibes got me feeling like a wise guy with some mob ties. While you wearing purses, nails painted like some mob wives. I advise you to follow rules we abide by. You ain't got the app, get the side. It's the vibe. We the realest niggas at the tribe. Feel it, put your pistols in the sky. You know this the vibe. Playing like you got a lot of lives. Really, nigga, you don't wanna die. You know this the vibe. Nigga, we the realest at the tribe. Feel it, put your pistols in the sky. You know this the vibe. Playing like you got a lot of lives. Really, nigga, you don't wanna die. You know this the vibe. Niggas at the tribe. Yeah.
68, 868. The Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Slavery. This time it was gonna be ships. By way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there it shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you. We hit these shores, we were sold for slave man and slave woman.
All right, I believe we're here with it. All right, shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Brakathum to the brothers, and shalom, Yahweh Shamar Alathan Ba'Shem Yahushua to the sisters. Where the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started at a 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. That said, all right, tonight's class, we're going to go into about the ugly history behind Christianity. And we're going to focus on the Jesuits. All right. And there's a few things that I want to talk about when it comes to Christianity, because we need to know how detrimental it was for our people to be we were forced to become Christians. A lot of us may believe that we had a choice when it comes to slavery. We had a choice of being Christian. We had a choice of following that white Jesus Christ that we know. Well, guess what? That is not true whatsoever. If you are so-called Black, Latino, or Native American, you were forced to be a Methodist. You were forced to be a Baptist. You were forced to be an Adventist. You were forced to be a 7-day Adventist. You were forced to be an AME. You were forced to be Pentecostal. You were forced to be non-denominational. You were forced to do these things. And a lot of us don't realize where all of these things come from. But if you are so-called Black, Latino, or Native American, you were sexualized, brutalized, and horribly abused to become Christians, just as much as you were horribly abused to take on the religion of Islam and become Muslims in the 30s and 40s and 50s and all the way into the early 2000s and now 2025. You may think that this was of your own accord. Allow me to get rid of that mythology of yours and that mindset of yours or that ideology of yours. You did not become a Christian on your own accord. You did not become a Muslim on your own accord. You didn't become a Buddhist of your own accord. You didn't gain interest in voodoo on your own accord. You did not decide to participate in the worship of crystals and wear crystals around your neck and hang up dream catchers and crystals all on your wall and burn sage on your own accord. You had to be brutalized and sexualized and abused in order to do so. This was not of your own accord. And if you allow some oppressor, if you allow these other nations and races of people to make you believe that you did these things on your own accord, well, they are sadly mistaken, and so are you. And as a people, that's something that we need to understand. But we're going to get into it, right? Officer Yagadar, if you there, let me see. I believe it's the first screenshot, not the first screenshot I sent you, but one of the new screenshots that I sent you. If you can put that on the screen, that when it talks about slavery was a total institution. If you can, when you can, all right. Also, if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any concerns, please put your questions in the chat, and I will indeed get to them. The water in advance. All right. And Officer calls upon you to read for me, Bubba Kwashai, if possible. The water. And of course, take your time. You're fine. You can sit right here where the computer is, so you can so you'll be able to read what's on the screen. Possibly let me know if you're able to read that or not. Is everybody also in the chat? Can everybody see what's on the screen pretty clear? Because I want to make sure we're clear on that, because we're gonna go over a few things. All right. However, let's talk about my first question to anybody online too. Is anybody aware of who the Jesuits are? If anybody has an idea already, does anybody know who the Jesuits are? Many of us may not know how much of an important role the Jesuits played in the Black and Latino and Native Americans' destruction and ruin in America. I don't know. And we're also going to talk about that Catholic Church, because the Jesuits have a huge role to play in relation to Catholicism. We're going to possibly be able to get to that, and that's going to be something real quick. All right. This is tonight's history class. Are you able to read that, by the way? I guess it's possible to read. Like, can you see that, or does it need to be okay. Con, let me see. If you need to 100% it on the computer, that's fine. If not, if you're not able to read it, then I can possibly read it, because that might be slightly difficult to do. Actually, you see that you see this little small square right there? You can possibly click on that to see. Possibly, yeah. Yep. Is that I'm sure that's a lot. Is that a lot better? Okay. So you can start reading where it says slavery was a total institution.
Slavery was a total institution. It did not operate in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Jesuit slaveholding was interconnected across parishes, missions, and schools throughout the 19th century United States.
Now stop right there real quick. So keep in mind this article, all right? And the name of this article, I'll get to it. Let me see the name of this article. It's an article that I enjoy reading. Of course, y'all can read it yourselves, but y'all can look it up. It's called A National Legacy of Enslavement. All right. So if you look up the article, let me see. Let me go back to it. So the full name of the article is from Brill, Brill. All right. And it's A National Legacy of Enslavement, an overview of the work of the slavery, history, memory, and reconciliation project. The reconciliation project, right? Meaning to reconcile. And so what Officer Alcor just read, where it says slavery was a total institution. So keep in mind, this was an institution. This was something that was instituted for profit, for benefit, and for gain. Keep that in mind. So when we're talking about talking about the transatlantic slave trade, the slave trade of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, keep in mind that this was a total institution. Think of an institution like a college. Think of an institution as like something incorporated, like a Save-A-Lot or like a Walmart or like a Target, things like that. Like this was an institution. America itself is an institution and a corporation. Think about it in that sense. Slavery was a total institution. It did not operate. It wasn't isolated, right? At all. It was an institution. And a lot of these other nations and races of people participated in the the transatlantic slave trade. They also benefited off of the transatlantic slave trade, and they gained from it, like your Portuguese and your Spaniards and the English and the French and the British. These countries benefited and gained from the transatlantic slave trade. You also got your Muslim countries like your Afghanistan, your Iraq, your Iran, your Pakistan. Like these countries benefited, like your Turkey, they benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. The United Emirates wouldn't be so rich if it wasn't for blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, if it wasn't for the slave trade. Your East Indians benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. China, Japan, these places benefited and gained from the transatlantic slave trade. And that's what's most important to understand. So keep that in mind. All right, continue reading.
Enslaved people were borrowed from and loaned to other religious orders.
So now, actually, can you start from Jesuits one more time? My bad. My apologies. Salaki.
Jesuit slaveholding was interconnected across parishes, missions, and schools throughout the 19th century United States.
So now right there is letting you know that Jesuits, right, which literally stands for the Society of Jesus. All right. I'm sure y'all answered that in the chat. So whoever got that right, give them a round of applause. But the Jesuits stands for the Society of Jesus. Now keep this in mind. This was a society, meaning a group of people, a community who believed in Jesus Christ, right? Who thought to believe in Jesus Christ, who we know as Yahweh Shai Mashiach, but they just knew him as Jesus Christos or Jesus Christ. Now keep in mind, once again, these are a community of people who believed in Jesus Christ. Now think about it right now. These are our oppressors. These are people who brutalized us, sexualized us, and abused us, and treated us in so many manners of wickedness and evil. And they had a society of Jesus Christ. They had a group and a world and a community of people who believed in Jesus Christ. And their belief was having slave holdings. Keep that in mind. And it was interconnected across parishes, missions, and schools throughout the 19th century United States. Now, the 19th century, if I'm not mistaken, that's your 1800s. All right. And then your 20th century is your 1900s. If I'm getting that correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, that 19th century is referring to the 18th century. I believe that's how it works. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. All right. Continue with enslaved people.
Enslaved people were borrowed from and loaned to other religious orders.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Diocesan bishops
Mm-hmm.
and clergy,
Mm-hmm.
lay people,
Mm-hmm.
and non-Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Jesuit institutions rely on other institutions like contractors,
Mm-hmm.
banks,
Mm-hmm.
benefactors,
Right.
that benefited from enslaved labor.
Now, keep in mind. Now, this was a study, right, of historical evidence from an accredited university, an accredited article. That's why I want y'all to read it. Because our oppressor would tell you, sometimes our oppressor would tell you the truth, but it's written down somewhere. They won't tell you the truth as a whole. They may not tell you the truth up front, but they will put truth in their history and their records in a book. If you're not careful, you just got to be able to pay attention and you got to be able to do the knowledge. And so it says right here that enslaved people were borrowed from and loaned. Keep in mind, we were loaned and borrowed in their society. We're talking about the Jesuits here. We're talking about the Society of Jesus, who has a major influence on the Catholic Church. That's why it talks about that's why it says and non-Catholics, because the Society of Jesus had a heavy influence on the Catholic Church, on Catholicism. All right. So we're going to continue. I'm going to continue when it says enslaved people were borrowed from and loaned to other religious orders, right? Talking about your bishops, your clergies, your lay people, or non-Catholics. And then here's the marker where it says Jesuit institutions relied on other institutions like contractors, banks, and benefactors that benefited from enslaved labor. They're telling you that the contractors of America, those contract companies, those contractor incorporations, they're telling you that the banks of America, like your Bank of America, all right, like your your city banks, you understand? Think of any bank that has been established in America. If you just look up those initial banks that were established, like the Rothschild banks, like these banks that were established in the 19th century, in the 1800s, all of these banks come out of them. These banks like Navy Federal, Bank of America, City Banks, Trust Bank, and all these other type of banks would be nothing if it wasn't for the banks that profited and benefited and gained off of slavery in the 20th century, in the 19th century, in the 1800s. You wouldn't be able to have a bank account today if it wasn't for slavery. Let's keep that in mind. You wouldn't be able to put money in your bank account if it wasn't for slavery during the 1800s. If it wasn't for that, Navy Federal, your USAA, your Santander's, what's some your Tidewater Banking. There's other banks out here. Your Bayport banks. None of these banks would exist if it wasn't for slavery. If it wasn't for the brutalization and the sexualization and the abuse of so-called blacks, African Americans, Native Americans, and Latinos, it would not exist. This is what our oppressor is telling you in this article. They were benefactors of it. If you can continue.
In this way, Jesuits were no different from their contemporaries.
So now they were no different from their contemporaries, meaning they were no different from actual slave owners. They were no different from your George Washingtons. They were no different from your Andrew Jacksons. They were no different from your Thomas Jeffersons, your Andrew Jacksons, your Teddy. I wouldn't say Roosevelt's because he wasn't during that time. If we're talking about all your useless Grants, when we're talking about the presidents of America, right, who owned slaves, like Abraham Lincoln, who owned slaves and benefited and was a benefactor from enslaved labor, right? They were no different than these people. They were no different than them. There are corporations since slavery that still exist today, but their names are changed, right? They're no different than them. The ones who benefited, who was a benefactor and gained from the transatlantic slave trade, from the slave trade of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's what we're referring to. Go ahead. Like this is, one second, my bad. Like this is the ugly truth of Christianity. To be a Jesuit is a part of Christianity. This is what real Christianity looks like. Don't allow your oppressors, don't allow the heathen, don't allow these other nations and races of people trick you, right? And run the game on you and make you believe that this isn't a part of Christianity. Because when you allow them to say, well, that's in the past, you just got to let that go. That ain't what real Christians are. This is what real Christians is today. Well, let me tell you something. Real Christians established America. Real Christians benefited off of enslaved labor. We're reading it now in the article. Like this is historical evidence. This is what real history looks like. This is why your president, Donald Trump, a part of the GOP, is trying to take out, he's trying to push critical race theory in schools. This is why he's trying to fight the Smithsonian to take out the negative parts of slavery as if there was anything positive about it. This is why, because America has an ugly history. Christianity truly has an ugly history. And this is what Christianity really looks like right here in this article. Please go ahead. Continue where you left off.
They were participants in local, national, and global systems of slavery that are inextricably bound to the origin story of the United States and tied to the participation of the Society of Jesus and the Catholic Church in slavery and the slave trade worldwide.
Well, they damn near said it right there. Like this is exactly what it is. This is why I wanted to bring this out in class tonight, because if you're an officer in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, this is information that you need. This is information that our oppressor cannot run away from. This is something you need to put in your notebooks, because it says it right here. Our oppressors did this study right here. You know what I'm saying? This is college. This is college work. This is university work. All of this information were written by scholars who did research, made their citations to let you know, right, that the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, right, are the origin story of the United States and tied to the participation of the Society of Jesus and the Catholic Church in slavery and the slave trade worldwide. They're responsible. Keep in mind, the Catholic Church is Christianity. All right. Now, stop right there if you can. Officer Yagadar, can you minimize this for me real quick, actually? Just real quick. Just minimize, because you don't have to read it right quick. If you can, I believe it's right here to the right. There you go. And Officer, and so like if someone said it's fairly small. Okay, when we Officer Yagadar, were you able to fix that for the sister? Just let me know. And if you can you put up that not the list. I guess it's like a branch, like a tree branch of all of the denominations, if you can, Bubba Kwashab. And also, if you can you guys hear the reader quite well? We're not using the mic because apparently we don't have the proper equipment to let it be heard. All right, but if you can hear the reader clear, please just let me know. Put a 1 or a 1 West in the chat. But while Officer Yagadar gets that, if you can, Bubba Kwashab, there should be it should say the Protestant denominations. All right, Most High in Christ, it can be heard. So it should be Protestant denominations where everything is. All right, you have your Protestant denominations. It should be a list, if you can, Officer Yagadar, when you get the time. But what's extremely important is to understand the ugly history behind Christianity. Also, once again, if anybody has any questions, all right, just type it into the chat, and Officer Yagadar, he'll be responsible to make sure that I get these questions on the screen for me to see. All right, it doesn't necessarily have to be on topic, but most of your questions may be on topic anyway, in relation to, because we're talking about Christianity. All right, can you can maximize that for you so I can see and you can see as well, if you can, Officer Paul. The water. And the water to you, Officer Yagadar. Okay, so if you guys can see on the screen, hopefully this is not as small. All right. You can just press can you maximize it real quick? I feel like it came out. You did, but it came out. You were to the water. Yeah. I think it did it on its own. Okay, so if you guys can see on the TV screen, I know y'all may not be able to see me points, but y'all can see it. You see where it says like the early Christian church, where it says 33 right here, right? The early Christian church right there. That's talking about, those are the churches that were established right after in the name of Yahweh Shai Mashiach by Peter and Paul. This is what this is talking about, right? So when you see the early Christian church, that's what they're referring to. All right. This is what they were referring to. Then you have later, right, you have the Roman Catholic Church right here. All right, you have the Roman Catholic Church. Now let me see. It's not here, right? So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm trying to remember when the Roman Catholic Church was established. I know it doesn't have a date there. And of course, I will press a didn't put a date there purposely. Just give me some time. When was... All right, there we go. So this is roughly around that time. All right. So I believe around 500 to 590 CE. That's the estimate. All right, of when I believe 590 CE is the most common one, where it talks about the Roman Catholic Church, right? When Pope Gregory, right? When it talks about Pope Gregory, all right, the Roman Catholic Church. So from here, right, 33 this, right? That's 33 AD or 33 CE. But the Roman Catholic Church, there should be 590 CE, right? 590 CE. From 590 CE all the way to roughly around the 1500s is where you have the Protestant Church coming to be. All right. Now the reason why I want to bring this up is because in between here and here, right, between from here to here, there was a major change into the interpretation and the translation of the Bible when the Roman Catholic Church was established. All right. And there were many councils that happened around the 500 to 590 CE to change everything. All right. But the reason why I'm just bringing that up real quick is because I want you to understand the early Christian church isn't the church that we know today. This entire chart is proof that the early Christian church isn't what the church is today. And if you can tell, after the Roman Catholic Church, it was the Protestant Church, which is in relation to the Protestant Reformation. And then from there, so many of the churches we know today, right? And what some of our grandparents have went to, our mothers may still go to this day. All right. Like for an example, a lot of us were Pentecostal. A lot of us know about what a Pentecostal church is, right? Where all the hoop and hollering and speaking in tongues, that's your Pentecostal. What made Pentecostal different from Methodist in the Holiness Church is Pentecostals believed that they could speak in tongues. That's the only difference. Everything else was the same. As you can tell, it gives you John and Charles Wesley for the Methodist Church, right? That's an oppressor. The Pentecostal Church, our people pretty much took over Pentecostalism. And then from there, out of Pentecostalism, you see right here, that's how you get your non-denominational churches. So when you see black people saying that they're non-denominational, they're just a sector out of the Pentecostal church. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind. So you guys know. But that Roman Catholic Church, that's 590 CE. All right. And now I may or may not touch on this and not go too much into detail, but the Council of Nicaea was an important council. All right. The Christian church, right? That entire Trinity, right? That entire Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, all of that comes from the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Constantinople, whatever. I'm not sure that that's the right way to pronounce it, but there were two councils for sure. One of them was the Council of Nicaea. That was during this time right here where that marker is, the Roman Catholic Church. So just let you know that from the early Christian church, that's in relation to Peter and Paul, that was teaching that, you know, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and the teachings were that he was not the Most High God, and God only was for the Israelites, and Christ only died for Israel, and like that was that. Everything else changed after the Roman Catholic Church got their hands on everything. But I just wanted to show y'all that so you guys can have that in your record books. If y'all want to screenshot that, if you guys want that in your repertoire, just so you guys know, because remember, history is something important. Like, this is a part of the ugly history of Christianity. And also, I want you to focus on the dates. Now, remember, slavery has been around since the 1400s. So if you were Protestant, right, your slave masters were Protestant. Our oppressors, right, who did not like the Christian church, who did not like the Catholic Church or the Roman Catholic Church and spoke ill about the Catholic Church, they were Protestants, even though they were slaveholders. The society of Jesus Christ, the Jesuits, that's all the Roman Catholic Church right here. They were for slavery. They were pro-slavery, and they were benefactors, and they benefited from slavery. All right. Our oppressors were also into Lutheranism, that Lutheran church. Our oppressors were also Reformed Christians. You understand? Oh, the Council of Nicaea was 325 AD. So from the water for that, I can't, right. So now you have the early Christian church and between the Roman Catholic Church, those councils, or right in between there, which made the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church that we know today and the doctrine of Christianity that we know today. The water for that. I was trying to get my bearings straight. The water for that also, Yagadar. All right, the water for that. If you see this, if you heard any of your oppressors or anyone talking about their Anabaptists or the Amish people, all right, the Amish people benefited off of slavery. You see that? 1693. There was no way that you were an oppressor and being Amish and did not benefit off of slavery. You see this right here? Your 7-day Adventist, 1844. Slavery was not abolished at that time. Not at all. If you were Adventist, 7-day Adventist, if you were Baptist in 1609, the Southern Baptist Convention, for sure, in 1845, you benefited off of slavery, especially if you are an oppressor. All right? If you want to talk about you being Presbyterianism, if you're a Presbyterian, you or Reformed, like I said, you benefit off of slavery in Europe, in Britain, in England, in France, and Scotland. Like these denominations, these are the beginning of that's the beginning of the Christian church. Like this is the ugly history of Christianity, who benefited and were benefactors and who gained from slavery. This is something that's extremely important to know. All right, like I said, your Episcopal churches right here in 1607. So if you went to an Episcopal church, just know, historically speaking, these churches benefited off of slavery. In order to build those churches, to build up their congregations, they benefited off of slave labor. And like I said, we just brought out, I'm going to get the brother to bring it back up again, when it talks about the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus. Like they were absolute benefactors and benefits. And when it came to the institution of slavery in the United States of America, let's talk like, here we go. When we're talking about your Salvation Army, right? The Salvation Army. Everyone knows about the Salvation Army, right? They were ringing bells on Christmas and stuff and passing out clothes. Well, guess what? That's 1878. They for sure benefit off of slavery. You know what they also benefit off? Because by then slavery, quote unquote, was abolished. They benefited off of Jim Crow. They benefit off the Reconstruction era of oppressing blacks and Latinos and natives who just got off the slave plantations trying to set up life. All of Christianity will be held guilty and are held responsible for the destruction and the ruin of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is history. This is why we can't let our oppressor go. This is why we can't allow them to say, oh, well, it's in the past. We got to forget about that. Look at all these denominations from the Roman Catholic Church all the way over. You know what I'm saying? Listen, when I saw this list, I was like, damn, Salvation Army and Amish. I was trying to give them a break. I was like, I thought I could give them a break. Nah, I can't. They on the list, from 1693, and here we go in 1878. All right. I can't give you no breaks. The Lord opened my eyes and said, every last oppressor is guilty. You understand? These are not my words. These are also the words of your people. They made this list. They made this chart for me to be able to teach to all my people that all of Christianity is responsible for our ruin. So, Officer Yagadar, can you pull up, can you go back to that last picture or that image that I sent you so we can go back to the Jesuits? All right. But yeah, that's something extremely important to know. All right. We're gonna get some history tonight. All right. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. All right, Bubba Kwashai. So can you if you can, for the brothers and sisters that might just tune in, can you start from enslaved people and stop the slave trade worldwide? Bubba Kwashai, one more time. And the water for making that bigger. Is that you making it bigger? Oh, that's Officer Yagadar. Most time I think that's for the students. All right. I guess he'll walk with you. Officer Yagadar, can you can you just go back up for Officer Costa to read, and that'll be perfect. Right.
Enslaved people were borrowed from and loaned to other religious orders. Diocesan bishops and clergy, lay people and non-Catholics. Jesuit institutions rely on other institutions like contractors, banks, and benefactors that benefited from enslaved labor. In this way, Jesuits were no different from their contemporaries. They were participants in local, national, and global systems of slavery that are inextricably bound to the origin story of the United States and tied to the participation of the Society of Jesus and the Catholic Church in slavery and the slave trade worldwide.
There you go. That's why I had to bring up that list. All of those Christian denominations came out of the Catholic Church. Your Protestant church came out of the Catholic Church. And then out of the Protestant church came your Baptist, your Southern Baptist Convention, your Amish, your Salvation Army, your Pentecostal, your Presbyterian. All of these denominations came out of the Protestant church, which came out of the Catholic Church. The only reason why the Protestant church left the Catholic Church, because they believed in private interpretation. Real quick, go back to that screen. Actually, no, you can't. Actually, I didn't send you that. So, never mind. You don't got to go back to that screen. But that's the main difference. I'm gonna just say it. I wish I didn't send them that, but I'm not gonna do it right now. It's okay. I'm gonna let you know. You can look this up. It's in that same article where I got that list from. If anyone needs it, just let me know. I can just send you the screenshot. But the only difference between the Protestant church and the Catholic Church is simply that they believed that the Bible and the scriptures can be privately interpreted. That's literally the only difference between the Catholic Church and the Protestant church. And then, of course, from the Protestant church, there were just different denominations. And what's the main? And so in the Christianity that we know today, what do you know? What do you see? It's always, oh, this is my interpretation. This is my interpretation. Well, this is how I see it. This is how I interpret it. Well, this is how I feel. Well, this is what I think it's saying. This is what I feel. Well, that's literally the foundation of the Protestant church, is how you feel and what you think. Well, you know what they thought? They thought slavery was good. Just like Donald Trump thought that there were positive pieces of slavery. There were positive parts of slavery. And he's tired of the Smithsonian talking about that they focus on the negative parts of slavery. Well, I don't know if you knew this, numbnut, but that's American history. It's all negative. There was nothing positive for blacks and Latinos and Native Americans. Our oppressor hates and despises and loathes and abominates when you bring up his terrible, disgusting past. And I want you to keep in mind, you must know your history or you won't be able to defeat these clowns. Like, you must hold them accountable, or you won't, or you'll just be stuck in your own ways, or you'll just be trapped and enslaved in your own ways if you don't charge them, if you don't hold them responsible. Keep in mind, you also got to know that these people, they are deceptive. They are deceivers. They are the oppressor on the earth. They are the devil on the earth. Our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. You must keep that in mind. You must keep that in mind. Like, these are the very same people, right, who came to a land, the Jesuits, the Puritans, the Pilgrims. I wish I could listen. Maybe next time I teach a class, I'll talk about them Puritans and them Pilgrims. You understand? Like, everybody knows about the Puritans and the Pilgrims in relation to Thanksgiving, and they all came together to have a big old Thanksgiving meal. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna go in it briefly, but anyway, them Puritans and them Pilgrims, man, but they were no different than the Jesuits, but they weren't as bad as the Jesuits. Them Jesuits, they were bad, man. Even the Puritans had to say, oh, wait a minute. I mean, we want to enslave black people and whoop their tail and brutalize them and sexualize them. But when I mean the Jesuits took it a top notch, even the Puritans and the Pilgrims had to be like, whoa, wait. That's how terrible the Jesuits were. So if you are a brother and a sister out there, so-called black, Latino, Native American, them Jesuits, they were worse than the Puritans. They were worse than the Pilgrims. You thought the Catholics were bad? You thought your Protestants were bad? You thought your Salvation Army was bad? You thought your Southern Baptist Convention was bad? You thought your Baptist was terrible? You thought your Amish were terrible? You understand? You thought your Presbyterian was terrible in Europe, in the UK, in England, and in France. You thought they were terrible as slave owners? You never met the Jesuits. Continue reading our Bubba Quizar.
Parishes, schools, and other works of the Catholic Church and its members share in this complicity of slaveholding.
Now, keep in mind, I can't really harp on this enough. Keep in mind, these are the very same people who came to a land and enslaved a race of people, right? And brutalized and sexualized and abused a race of people known as the Native Americans, and also enslaved and brutalized and sexualized and abused so-called blacks and the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans and the El Salvadorians and the Cubans. These are the very same people who committed acts of genocide on the people and unalived them and exterminated them and executed them by the millions and the billions, but will tell you that Hitler was a terrible person. These are the kind of people we're dealing with here. Just keep that in mind. If you could just think deep down inside your heart, the kind of people you're talking to, they will tell you how terrible Hitler is. To this day, right? To this day in 2025, there are people born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and probably now, who know for sure Hitler, Adolf Hitler, was the most horrible person in history because of what he did to the so-called Jewish man, or to the Jewish man, to the so-called Jew, right? You'll know how terrible he is because of the gas chambers he set up. You understand? And the concentration camps he set up and unalived the Jewish people by the thousands, not the millions, but by the thousands. They'll say millions though, but it was really just by the thousands. They will teach you this in every generation of how terrible this man is, but we'll have a genocidal maniac carved on Mount Rushmore and say that this man is to be honored. Andrew Jackson was a genocidal maniac. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, your John Adams. These people were homicidal, genocidal maniacs when compared to the so-called Native Americans. Just keep that in mind. These are the kind of people you're talking to. These are the kind of people you're dealing with. Like, this is the ugly history of Christianity right here. I pray that every last one of you understand. Please continue reading up.
Likewise, the legacies of enslavement endure, just as descendant communities continue to be affected by slavery's consequential structural racism. So, to have Jesuit institutions continue to benefit.
That's talking about us. That's talking about so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. It's telling you that to this day, America benefits and the Jesuits benefit off of slavery to this day. The Jesuits still exist. They didn't ban them everywhere. They still have institutions that still exist. They still believe they're doing the Lord's mission. The Catholic Church still exists today. The Protestant Church and the denominations that come out of them, obviously they exist today. And they benefit. They benefit off of slavery. They benefit off of the consequential structure of racism. You understand? That's why a black man, a so-called black man, Latino or Native American man cannot be racist. Because we're not Jesuits. We're not real Catholics. I'm going to get into what the Catholics did in tonight's class to the Mexicans and to the Aztecs. I'm going to tell you what they did to them today. I'm going to get into that a little bit too. All right. Continue. Officer Yagadog, is that it on this one? Or is there another screenshot? Is there a little bit more? I think there's a little bit more being read down. I think there's more highlighted. Maybe, maybe not. If not, then if you can, I want you to go to the our findings. If you can go to our findings, and that'll be great. The one that says our findings, where it says we have learned. And put that on the screen. We're going to get in it tonight. All right. When it comes to the Jesuits, the Catholic Church, Christianity, this is what it is. This is why you can't allow these oppressors to run away from their history. Don't allow it. Hold them guilty, because they will hold themselves not guilty. That's what the Bible says. The Lord said that they will hold themselves not guilty. All right. Of course, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. So, like, are you thirsty by any chance? Okay, Khan. If you want, there's some water in there, and Bubba Krashad, can you pour me like some tea in there, Bubba Krashad? The water so much. Yeah, the cups are right over there. Yeah, the water. So, like, about that. But yeah, we're gonna get into our findings, man, and because we're also gonna talk about I don't want to spoil it, right? Because we got plenty of time. But does the Christian church, does Christianity play a role on the oppression and the ruin and the destruction of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans? All right, that goes for your Donald Trumps, your Joe Bidens, your Epsteins, your Hillary Clintons, your Bill Clintons, your Ronald Reagans, your Nixons. Like, all of these people place such a ruin on so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is why the Lord required us. This is why the Lord required us to not be Christian, because of all the evil that Christianity has done. The water so much, brother. That Christianity has done to so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. If it wasn't Christianity, we would not be brutalized and sexualized and abused the way that we are now. The reason why I use those words sexualized, brutalized, and abused, not just because of TikTok, but there's so much you can break down from those three words. There's so much you can go into when it comes to brutalization. There's so much you can go into when it comes to sexualization. There's so much you can go into when it comes to abuse. I want you brothers and sisters out there to do a lot more reading too, because it will truly open your eyes to how much damage the oppressor has afflicted on the minds and the bodies and the souls of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is why the Lord demands us to not be Christian, to not be Presbyterian, to not be Southern Baptist Convention, not to be Baptist, not to be Methodist, not to be Pentecostal, not to be non-denominational. Some of these non-denominational Christians truly believe that they're doing something different simply because they don't have a denomination to their name, and even though non-denominational is a denomination, but they truly believe that, like, well, there was no denomination in the Bible, so we're going to call ourselves non-denominational, but you still follow the religion and the customs and the culture that comes with Christianity. Nothing Christians teach you is of the Bible of the Lord. How can a religion that benefited off of slavery be of God? Keep that in mind. The oppression and the brutalization. How can a religion, keep this in mind, as a religion, we're not talking about as a race of people quite yet, but as a religion, which is attached to a race of people, have benefited off of the brutalization and the sexualization and the abuse of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's something serious. Why would the Lord want you to be a part of something like that? How could he want you to be a part of that and join yourself to that? If you can read that for me out.
What we have learned is that enslaved people supported the growth of the Jesuit order in the expanding United States.
Read that one more time from the top. That's real direct, ain't it?
What we have learned is that enslaved people supported the growth of the Jesuit order in the expanding United States.
So enslaved people in relation to so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, because of our enslavement, we supported the growth of Jesuit order in the expanding United States. Remember, the United States pushed manifest destiny, meaning it was their destiny to have the entire United States. It was of God that our oppressors committed acts of genocide against our people, against the Iroquois, against the Muskegee, against the Pequot, against the Wampanoag, against the Cherokee, against the Seminoles, against the Comanche, you know what I'm saying, against our Native American brothers and sisters, to have the entire land of America, the entire land that's now called America. That was manifest destiny. That was the destiny. They said this was of God. Keep in mind that at one point in time, your Presbyterian church believed that it was okay to unalive you in the name of God. Keep in mind that at one point in time, your Methodist church believed that it was okay to unalive you in the name of God. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind that your Salvation Army believed at one time, and they still could believe it today, but I'm just letting you know, historically speaking, I'm speaking from, the pretense of history. They believed at one point in time that it was okay to unalive you, right? For in the name of God, in the benefit of their country and their nation that they call the United States of America. You understand? In the meantime, can you drop this real quick and pull up the U.S. Constitution that I sent to you? I'm gonna read some words out of the Constitution. This is coming from the Constitution. Like I said, we're gonna talk about history. And also, if there, and just in mind, I also did the class today, so brothers can see how the history class is really supposed to look like. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what the history class is really supposed to look like. You're supposed to bring up historical evidence, historical facts, historical documents. So make sure you coordinate with each other when it comes to the history class and do a lot of reading so you can bring certain things out during history. All right. In accordance to scripture. I may not get into scripture today, right? Because I'm just focusing on history. Now you can bring out his scriptures during the history class. I suggest it, obviously, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just letting y'all know, like, make sure you guys are bringing out historical evidence and bringing out historical figures, if you can, on the screen or in class or being read in class. All right. We got plenty of books in class that brothers can open up and read and bring out during their lessons, because history drives points home. If you don't know your history, you can't drive a point home. Like, when it comes to debating Christians, You have to be able to drive a point home. You have to be able to build a case. You must be essentially a lawyer. So if you're a brother in this school, right? You know what I'm saying? You might want to look up how lawyers talk and how lawyers build cases. Watch a few lawyer shows. Watch a few trials and watch how these lawyers build their case to defeat their enemy in that courtroom. It may give you some idea of how to build your own case to defeat your enemies, which are Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, people who believe in crystals and things like that. And you need history. How do I know? Because when you go into that courtroom, they're bringing up history. They're bringing up pre-court cases from the Supreme Court to their case. They're bringing up past things that you may have done in the past to be held against you. Like, this is what they do. Our oppressor is the absolute devil that the Bible speaks of. And when it comes to court, like you must have the Lord on your side. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're so-called Black, Latino, Native American. We win court cases in here in the ISUPK. We win court cases because the Lord is with us. Because we made sure that the Lord is with us. The Bible says, make thy election sure. We made sure, right, by being humble. You understand? By being meek in the ways in the eyes of God, by keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments. This is how we gained the Lord's favor. You understand? And we continue to fight for his favor and his mercy and his grace. Y'all feel me? But let me know when you have that. If you could put that Constitution up for me by any chance. All right. Bubba Kwasha. But man, let me tell you. There we go. Here we go right here. So this is the United States. This is the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, I want you to, this is in the actual Constitution. If y'all don't know, if y'all did not know, Officer Rashomov, I've always had a Constitution on hand. All right. And the reason why I've always had a physical Constitution on hand, because when I was in Esau's military, this is something we swore an oath to when I was in Esau's military, right? And so, which means we held this document right here, and these documents clear. I remember it was even in our United States Sailors Creed, where it says, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And so when I was in my younger years, I never paid any attention to it. But it wasn't until when I was deployed overseas and I saw all the damage that our oppressor has done to the other nations of races of people, and then I equated to what he has done to us in America, I said, this is not my fight. That's what woke me up. And so then I opened up this Constitution and really started to read what's in it, because all I knew is I swore an oath to it. That's all I knew. I swore an oath to it. I'm just supposed to protect and defend it. Come to find out, I wasn't supposed to defend it at all. You know what I'm saying? I was never supposed to defend this because it never defended us. If you're so-called Black, Latino, or Native American, that's why we say it's an absolute evil act and a sin if you willingly go into Esau's military, knowing that you're not supposed to be in there. If you are in Esau's military, just do your time and get out. All right. However, the Lord never wanted us to be a part of America the way that we are now. Black people as a whole never really willingly served in Esau's military. Since the Revolutionary War, since the War of 1812, since the Civil War, we were forced to serve, and they served in their military, and they gave us incentives like, oh, we'll free you, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. There was an entire draft in World War I and World War II because there were too many oppressors being unalived by the Germans, by the English, by the French, by Russia, by whatever, by Belgium, by these countries that they fought in World War I. Austria and places like that. I can't remember. Now, don't quote me. All right. I remember slightly, but they were world powers at that time, and some of them still exist today, that fought in World War I and World War II. And because of so many oppressors, there was a draft, and they got blacks and Latinos and Native Americans to fight for them. And they're known as the Buffalo Soldiers. Spike Lee did a movie based off of them. Very good movie, by the way. The movie's called Miracles at St. Anna. All right. I was young when I first watched that movie. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old when I watched that movie. But it was such a good movie to me. Even to this day, I may even go home and rewatch it tonight. I don't know. But it's called Miracles at St. Anna. And it will show you how we were sent out to war. I believe this one was based on World War II because the main antagonists were German soldiers. All right. Nazi soldiers. All right. And so I say this is because we were forced to serve in a military, and they segregated us based on platoons, based on sections, based on compost and things like that. Keep that in mind. You understand? Like America's wars are not our wars. Like the Cold War was not our war. The Vietnam War was not our war. Both of those wars directly affected the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American community. When our soldiers got home, they were absolute drug addicts and became drug dealers. Look up Bumpy Johnson. You understand? Look up George, not George Lucas, Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas. You understand? Look up Frank Lucas. We learned those behaviors from our oppressor, of course, but them wars affected us by so much. You understand? When we're coming, you're talking about the 80s and 90s. We're talking about the Operation Desert Storms and things like that. All of these wars affected the Black, Latino, and Native American community by so much. Brothers and sisters being abused and sexualized in the ranks of the Navy, in the ranks of the Marine Corps, in the ranks of the Army, in the ranks of the Air Force. Do you know how many sisters were unalived and their bodies were found bloody all over and mutilated and signs of being molested and sexually abused? Dozens. And we only know about 4 accounts. Roughly 4 to 5 accounts. I can't, you can look up their names. And I'm gonna look up their names after this so I can commit it to memory. My brain is a little foggy right now, but I have the images in my head. So many sisters in the ranks of our oppressors' military. We were never supposed to be a part of them. So this Constitution right here, we all pledge our loyalty to it, and in return, we get sexualized, brutalized, and abused, and then we get sent home being drug addicts and drug dealers. And now our communities are in shambles. Look up the movie Black Caesar. Very old movie. It's a very old movie, but a beautiful movie to watch. You can kind of see from the point of from the perspective of the 60s how the drug epidemic affected the Black community in the 60s. Look up movies like your 70s and the 80s. That's your American Gangster. Look at what Frank Lucas. Look up movies like The Godfather and Goodfellas and things like that. They will show you how their people affected our communities by being mobsters and drug dealers and things like that. All right, those are good movies to watch because our oppressor will show you their history right in front of you. But back to this Constitution, right? This Constitution says right here, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, because remember, this is when America was set. This is when our oppressors were separating from British rulership. So like it says, we the people. Now we know we the people is talking to who? Oppressors. Because it wasn't until the 13th and 14th Amendment is when Blacks and Latinos and Native Americans were given citizens' rights, quote unquote. All right, citizenship and a sexual and things like that. We didn't even have citizenship before that. Citizenship was maintained after the 14th Amendment was ratified. All right, we're not going to go too much into that today. All right, but just keep that in mind. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. Well, it constitutionalized slavery And the only way to go back into slavery was one had to be duly convicted of a crime. All right. And it must have been used as a punishment. Then the 14th Amendment gave blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans citizenship. And by doing so, gave them quote unquote rights. And I say quote unquote because there was a civil rights movement, and civil rights was just a movement for human rights for blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This could not have been established if it wasn't for slavery and Christianity. If it wasn't for the Jesuits and the Puritans and the Pilgrims, if it wasn't for your Presbyterian, if it wasn't for your Protestant, if it wasn't for your Catholic Church and your Protestant church, this Constitution could not have been established. I just want y'all to keep that in mind. In order for this to be established, you must have been Catholic or Protestant. And you had to believe in genocidal behaviors, right? And believed in the enslavement of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's history. Can you go, Officer Yagadar, if you can, take me back so Officer Yagadar, Officer Al-Qasr Park can continue reading from that other page. And if you can, Priest, can you go where it says I want you to go back to where it says Jesuits were no different. So not at the same spot, but where it says Jesuits were no different. And also the water for your work, and Officer Al-Qasr Park, the water for your reading today too. But listen, we're gonna get in it tonight. Oh yeah, yep, the water. Yep, that's exactly it. No, you're good. You were good. Keep going down. I believe it's on the same page. I just wasn't sure if I sent it to you in separate screenshots or not. Okay, I sent it to you in the same screenshot. Most High in Christ. If you could read that for me, Bubba Quashah.
Jesuits were no different in how they treated enslaved people than other slave folks.
So let's stop right there. Here we are. Jesuits were no different in how they treated enslaved people than other slaveholders. So keep in mind, if you were a Jesuit, there was no difference between a slaveholder and a Jesuit. They brutalized you, they sexualized you, and they abused you. They for sure took you from out the fields and back broke you in front of your wives and children to maintain dominance and control over black men in slavery. That's what the Jesuits did. And so did slaveholders. Just like the slaveholders, Jesuits would take your mothers and your sisters and your daughters and your nieces and your female cousins and your aunties and give them to their guests so they can have their way with them and be able to express all of their sexual interests and desires on your family members that were females. That's what the Jesuits and slaveholders did. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind that Jesuits, just like slaveholders, would have sexual intercourse with children during the prepubescent stages, like your ages from 10 to ages to 16. This is what they did. Please, Bubba Quashah.
I know the Jesuits was again
The Society of Jesus.
Okay, the Society of Jesus. So only thing I wanted to say,
Please.
I think you did already, but
Please.
Just point out exactly and identify exactly who they were.
Okay, please go ahead.
So I have here the Jesuits is a religious order of clerics, regular of pontifical right for men, and the Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome. And I have the Jesuits are an order of priests who are supposed to be evangelists and teachers and scientists.
There you go. Is that it on that? Is it a little more? Now, listen. Give Officer Carl Sabar a hand, Bobo Kashab, because I didn't necessarily go over it. I kind of briefly went over it, but just keep in mind that's exactly who Jesuits are. All right. There's the Society of Jesus in the Catholic Church. They're supposed to be priests and evangelists, and they're also scientists. You understand? These are those. So keep in mind, scientists believed in taking your daughters and having sex with them, and your young boys and having sex with them during their teenage years and their infant ages, all right, and during their prepubescent stages of their life. This is what scientists believed in doing. This is what your evangelists believed in doing. This is what your priest believed in doing. Like your Catholic priest, your Jesuit priest, this is what they believed in doing. That's why child molestation and sexual assault and sexual abuse runs rampant in the Christian church. That's why there's so many cases of child molestation and child abuse found in Presbyterian churches, because they come from out of the Catholic Church. They come out of the Jesuit order. You understand? You understand? Oh, go ahead. One more time.
Oh yeah, kind of like, for example,
Please.
The popes are Jesuits.
Right, the popes are Jesuits. You understand? That's exactly who a Jesuit is. The water so much. Like that's why there's so much. That's why there's so much child abuse and sexual assault. All right, and child molestation found in your Catholic Church, your Presbyterian churches, your Protestant churches, your Baptist churches, your Amish churches, your Salvation Army. That's why when our people run for sanctuary to Salvation Army as young teenagers and sometimes as adults, they come out talking about how they were abused and sexualized. Our sisters will tell you stories. All right. Just talk to some of them sisters out there who may have had to be sheltered by the Salvation Army, and they'll tell you how they've been sexually assaulted and abused in the Salvation Army. That's why we say we can't just skip over this history. You understand? So please give Officer Carl Sabara excellent another hand. Throw water, please, Bobo Kwasha, because really that's exactly what the Jesuit order. That's what the Jesuit the Society of Jesus. The Society of Jesus is, the Jesuit order is, who the Pope is. We're going to go into papal leadership just after this. All right. But Most High Christ the water. Can you read a little bit more?
Jesuits frequently broke their own regulations about physically punishing bondspeople, splitting up families, and providing basic necessities such as adequate food and shelter.
So they had, now of course, just like slaveholders, they had rules, right? Because just like, you know how you have rules in relation to the property that you own today, in relation to your vehicles and your home, like there's rules that orbit and revolve you owning a house and owning a car. Like you can't just run your car into a building and expect to get an insurance claim after that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's rules. You can't just beat up your car and expect to, to get insurance, to get your insurance policy to pay it off. Like there's rules. You can't just burn down your house, right, and expect a new house. And the reason why I'm saying this, because we were once property, and there were insurance companies like your Aetna, right, that would insure your property because slaves were property. And so just like so they said the Jesuits frequently broke those regulations, right, when it came to physically punishing bondspeople, splitting up the families, providing basic necessities such as adequate food and shelter, meaning they'll keep you out, just like slaveholders. The Jesuits would keep you outside. In the winter, you freezing cold, freezing to death. Because they can. You're their property. You understand? They didn't care about family. You know what? It's crazy to think about, right? This is the origin of family reunions, because our families were split during slavery. And we had to find each other again to know who our family is. Well, our oppressor, these Jesuits, these popes, these priests, these evangelists, who so-called believe, who say that they believed in Jesus Christ, they believed in splitting up families. Just know this is what a real Christian believes in. This is what popes actually believe in. You hear me? Like this is, y'all feel me? Like this is what real evangelists believe in. This is why the entire American system revolves around splitting up and keeping the black family apart. because it's built off of Jesuit influence. It's built off of Catholic influence. It's built off of Protestant influence. And every last one of these Christian organizations and every last one of these Christian religions and Christian churches fully believed in the enslavement and the horrible treatment of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. I cannot express this enough. This is history. I'm reading it right here. I'm reading it right here. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. All right. These are their words. These are not so mine. All right. Bubble Quashab, priest, if you can. Can you go to the next one where it talks about where Jesuits were especially large slaveholders in the Caribbean and South America? If you can, Officer Yagadar, if you can, Bubba Kashah, if you can, that screenshot where it says Jesuits were especially large, they were large slaveholders in the Caribbean and in South America. We're going to talk about how the Jesuits has such a terrible influence on the Latinos, the Cubans, the Colombians, the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, anybody in the Caribbean, your Haitians, you understand? Your Cubans, your El Salvadorians, your Costa Ricans, your Brazilians, your Peruvians. So many, there's really so much history that we're just unaware of when it comes to so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. So much oppression has happened to us by the Christian church, by Christianity, by the Protestant church, by the Catholic church. All right, by the Jesuits, by the popes, by the evangelists, by the so-called priest, by the so-called scientists, by the so-called teachers and institutes. Like, so much oppression, so much brutalization, so much sexualization, so much abuse has been inflicted on us as a people. You understand? This is why we must hold them guilty. We must hold them accountable. This is how you drive a point home in your teachings. When you're debating some Christian, you must know this kind of history to really just drive home the point. Like, this is the kind of history you must know. Bubba Quashah, if you can, priest. Yeah, you can see. Yep.
Jesuits were especially large slaveholders in the Caribbean and South America. And even when they did not directly hold people in slavery, collaborated with European governments in expanding slavery and their colonial missions.
Most High in Christ. And just read as such and stop at slaveholding. And that's fine.
All Jesuits and their institutions are inheritors of the Jesuit legacy of slaveholding.
It says all Jesuits and their institutions are inheritors of the Jesuit legacy of slaveholding. Every last one of them. That's your Catholic Church. Like Officer Kalsapar brought up, that's your Pope. You understand? Those are your evangelists. Those are your so-called priests. That comes out of the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. Those are your pastors, your bishops, all of the Christianity that we know today. All, as such, all Jesuits and their institutions are inheritors of the Jesuit legacy of slaveholding. All of their institutions that are today, all right, Jesuit, that are based out of in relation to your Catholic Church. All right. And now it says right here, they collaborated with European governments. So keep in mind, that's talking about the French, that's talking about the British, that's talking about the English, that's talking about your Scotlands, please.
Yeah, come. I could say something. I was just watching, just so happened you go here. I'm pretty sure all of this information is tied into basically what's being said. It says we're talking about the Caribbeans. We know on the island with our brothers and sisters, Simeon and Levi,
right?
The Haitians and the Dominicans, how they were one, island at first.
Yes.
And then they got split. One side talking about the European government, the
right.
Spaniards took the Dominican side,
right,
and then you had the French took
yes
the Haitians and put them against each other, And now they
Yes.
still warring against each other today.
Yes.
And not only that, in the documentary that I was watching, just to speak on, well, we all know about the violence going on in
Absolutely.
Haiti, you know, and
Right.
the way that place is just destroyed, and their history
Right.
going back, how they beat, you know, what's his name, Trisont, the general when they, you know, got their freedom from France,
Right.
and now they punish them to this day because they still mad about that.
Yes.
But anyway, like, you know, prostitution is legal in the Dominican Republic.
Yes, it
It's
is.
a slightly richer country. It is more richer than Haiti is, but not by much. So the sex
Sex trafficking.
allure
Mhm.
there is a big part of their economy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're 18 or older,
Mm-hmm.
it's legal there.
Correct.
So a lot of people come from all over the world, especially Europeans,
Yes.
because they can't really practice it where they want. But when they come, they really want, you know, a man might want a young boy or a young girl. So a lot of them, even though the law is 18 or older there, a lot of those girls, they are already prostituting at the age of 13 and 14. And it's so acceptable. They might be in it with their brother,
Right.
mother, and they talking about good luck, have a good day. Like they just
Exactly,
going
yeah.
off to work or something. That's
Yeah.
just how normalized it is
Yeah.
when you go to the Dominican Republic.
Come.
So I just want to share that information.
So Water,
Yeah.
give that brother a hand too. Excellent, right? Because that's actually an excellent point. All that also called Sapar brought up is exactly in relation to what the Jesuits did. Our sisters would not be the prostitutes and the escorts and the sex workers and involved in sex trafficking and human trafficking if it wasn't for the Jesuits conspiring and benefiting and negotiating things with European governments like your British and your English and your French and your Spain, like your Spaniards and the Portuguese from Portugal and things like that. So that's an excellent point. The French ruled over Haiti and the Spaniards ruled over the DR. You wouldn't have passport bros if it wasn't for the Jesuits. The reason why these brothers are going to the DR is because they followed after our oppressor, Europeans, that went to the DR to be able to freely have sex with Dominican women who were prostitutes. Or because of how poor the country is. Don't think that this is because of how poor the country is. You can just go there and pay a sister for sex. That's it. It's not like it's a thing that you like, you know, it's not like you got to go to some site or anything. All you got to do is go to the bar. You can just walk down their street and be like, hey, you know what? I found you attractive. Here's $400. Let's have sex. That's all you got to do. And you probably don't even got to pay that much because the US dollar has more weight in the DR. And we're not going to get into currency, but you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. The US dollar spreads a lot further in the DR than it does in America. So a dollar there could be like probably 50 cents there or whatever the case is, probably even less than that. Not y'all can look up the currency yourself. All right. But there's a lot of those countries where the currency is a lot less than the US dollar. So the US dollar goes pretty far. But that's because it says the reason Haiti is poor is because the U.S. Marines stole all the Haitian gold and all the trade embargoes from the Europeans when they won the right. Exactly. Yep, that is true too. Right. The U.S. Marines play a huge part in that too as well. This is why I brought up the Constitution, because America's military has done a lot of damage over the years in relation to the destruction and the ruin to so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. But let's get further into it. Let me see. Okay, take me to the next one, Officer Yagadar. This is gonna be the last one on this, where it talks about by 1829, we're gonna talk about the Missouri Jesuits. We're gonna talk about the Missouri Jesuits because the Jesuits was in the state of Missouri. They were in many other states, of course, too, as well. They were throughout the United States, of course. They were throughout the Caribbean and South America. But we're gonna bring something special out in relation to Missouri, and then we're gonna go elsewhere. But yeah, we're gonna get into this history tonight for real. We're gonna get into it tonight because this is what's gonna really bring your points home when you're battling Christianity, when you're battling 845. Oh, you gotta leave it. Okay, no sweat, no sweat. The water. Con. So we're gonna get this, and then we may let me see, pull that, and I guess I'll pull one. Yeah, we're gonna make sure. Yeah, con. All right, yeah, and then yeah, we're gonna probably end the class on that. All right. I know I'm probably like uploading a bunch of information on y'all minds, but like I said, this is something this is the ugly history of Christianity. This is the ugly history of Catholicism. This is the ugly history of your popes and your priests and your evangelists. Just all of Christianity. This is what it is. If you can read that out.
By 1829, when the Missouri Jesuits took over operation of St. Louis College, which became a university in 1832.
That's during the times of slavery, by the way. Go ahead.
In downtown St. Louis, they owned at least 26 enslaved people.
Read that last number again. How many? 20 what?
26 enslaved people.
I want you to understand, right? And actually read the next line where it says by 1830.
By 1830, about 6 people, including Thomas and Molly Brown, had been sent to work at the new college, while most remained on the Jesuit seminary and farm and Florissant to support the school and local Jesuit parishes.
So let me tell you something. Let me make a long story short. A lot of these college universities in Missouri and throughout America also benefited off of slavery. You understand? Don't allow your oppressor to believe like these institutions, like your heart. That's why I kept on saying the institutionists, the institution that the Jesuit institutions is because that's a college. St. Louis College, that's a pretty good college too. You understand? That's a pretty good college. And it tells you right there that the college itself, not a slave owner, not that, it's the college itself, which became a university in 1832, because there's a difference between a college and a university. A college is in a university. All right. A university has many colleges. A college can be like the College of Literacy, the College of Mathematics, or the College of Science, all that. But then all of those things can become a university as a whole. So by 1829, when the Missouri Jesuits took over operation of St. Louis College, which became a university in 1832 in downtown St. Louis, they owned at least 26 enslaved people. The college, the Jesuits who took over the college, that university owned slaves. Now this whole entire article goes into the details, right? It really goes into the details of all the colleges that the Jesuits instituted and took control of, and there was slavery there. So just know our oppressor could not have. It's crazy to think about. It's crazy. Our oppressors couldn't have a college education if it wasn't for slavery. So when like people think, and I'm only laughing because people think we crazy. People think we're crazy. Like, what do you mean? I wouldn't have a degree if it wasn't for slavery. I'm reading it right here. It's telling you that without slavery, a lot of these colleges and these universities established throughout America could not have been established if it wasn't for slavery, if it wasn't for enslaved people, the enslavement of the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. It says it right here. Now, this is in the state of Missouri. There's other cases of all throughout different type of states, because this is just relation to the Jesuit order. So you know what I'm saying? This is just the Jesuits. There's other like the Puritans and the Pilgrims and the colonization that you might be able to get other details in other colleges like Virginia Tech, like your Virginia. Listen, I wish somebody would tell me William and Mary has nothing to do with slavery. That's in the state of Virginia. You know, William and Mary and what's the other school in Newport News? Christopher Newport. I wish some oppressor would tell me Christopher Newport and William and Mary College and University has nothing to do with slavery and was not able to be established unless it was for slavery. I wish an oppressor would tell me that. I wish. Please. Harvard. Are you talking about Harvard and Princeton and MIT, them colleges? If it wasn't for slavery, none of these institutions, none of these universities, none of these colleges would exist. I can't make this up. You know what I'm saying? I can't make this up. Also call anybody online. I can't make this up. I'm not pulling your leg. But real quick, if you can, Officer Yagadar, because I can't spend too much time because I want to be able to. There's another article that I need you to pull up. It's not an article. I believe it's a page. One of the pages that I sent to you in one of the books. Let me see which one it is, which one I want. That goes in relation to yeah, I want the where it says 60 million Native Americans had been exterminated. I want let's go on that. What happened? Oh, you saw the rest. Yeah. You saw the rest of it, right? Oh, William and Mary owned slaves for over 172. Oh man, the water, Officer Yagadar. I knew I won't tripping. I wish somebody would. Listen, Officer Yagadar got me on point tonight. Most High in Christ, over 172 years. Yeah. Come on, man. And our oppressor is not the devil the Bible speaks of. Right. Yeah, you got to be kidding me. But I'm gonna bring this. I had to bring this out, and I think I'm doing good on time. This is gonna be the last thing, and please, Officer Yagadar, we're gonna make this quick, real quick. And so Officer Carson Barr can read it, and you can read it as fast as you can because we're kind of short on time. But listen, this right here, now what we're about to do is we're gonna read out of this book right here. If y'all can see on the screen, I'm trying to bring it as close to the camera as possible. But there's this book right here. All right. And this book says the book no pope would want you to read. And the reason why I love this book is because, this teaches you about the Jesuits, the Puritans, and the Pilgrims and things like that. But it focuses and it revolves and it orbits around the Catholic Church, which is essentially the Jesuit order. It's essentially the Jesuits. All right. History, our oppressor scatters their history. It makes it harder for you purposely because it's up to you to be able to take all these books and then put it together. And that's what the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge did. We did a bunch of reading, a bunch of studies, and then we put all that information together to give you the truth. You know what I'm saying? We had to go here, and then we all brought it together so you can know that our oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. Yeah.
That diagram you showed earlier,
Mm-hmm.
it broke down, the order of this thing all the way from the early church,
right,
to the Roman.
Yep.
When they took over, all the way down now to these non-denominational churches.
Con.
So these black preachers and things of that nature, and it said how the Jesuit order continues to this day.
Exactly.
So that's telling us that when we go into these churches, you always told me. And every black community is a church,
yes,
and a liquor store.
Yes, literally right next to each other.
And why do they got these churches still in our communities to continue that institution of mental slavery? Exactly.
Give that brother a hand. Most High in Christ, because that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like, this is why we have to know this history so we can drive our points home. You know what I'm saying? I really wanted to do this class. I think I want to do this class for the past 3 months now. So lucky. I've been wanting to do it for 3 months. You know what I'm saying? But here we are, so y'all can have it. Just read. You can read the first bullet right there.
60 million Native Americans had been exterminated by the end of the 16th century itself.
Now by the 16th century, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Like by the 16th century, 60 million Native Americans were slaughtered, executed, exterminated by our oppressor. By Catholicism, by Christianity. Like Catholicism is a section of Christianity. I don't know if anyone knew that. Christianity is everything. Then you have Catholicism and then Protestantism. And then from there, you got all these other churches. Go ahead.
For instance, good Christians from Spain.
Good Christians. Keep in mind, good Christians. Like your Good Fridays, good Christians. Go ahead.
Hanged 13 natives at a time in honor of Christ, our Savior, and the 12 apostles.
Can you just read that one more time, Mark?
For instance, good Christians from Spain hanged 13 natives at a time in honor of Christ, our Savior, and the 12 apostles. So
when I say our oppressor unalived us in the name of Jesus Christ, Christ our Savior, that white Jesus Christ, Caesar Borgia, the second son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome, who unalived his father, the homosexual lover of Leonardo da Vinci, a man who had sex with his sister Lucretia Borgia. That's who we died under. As Native Americans, and blacks and Latinos were involved in that, but they're talking about the Native Americans here in specific. We were unalived in the honor of Christ our Savior, quote unquote, in that white Jesus Christ. I just want to let you know. Continue reading.
Then straw was wrapped around their torn bodies, and they were burned alive. And
that was stated in the book, The American Holocaust. That's where it was cited in the American Holocaust by D. Standard. They were burnt alive. They were burnt alive. 13 of them. And it represented the 12 apostles and Jesus Christ. That's real, though. That's what real Christians did. Just read the next one.
19th century Christian missionaries exterminated the Californian Indians in the most gruesome manner. So
now there we go. California, the state of California would have not been established if it wasn't for Jesuits, Catholics, Christians exterminating the Californian Indians. You wouldn't have California like the party. You wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Christians and Jesuits and Catholics unaliving Californian Native Americans. With that, I'm gonna say shalom with a Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander Junior Yahana. And of course, we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group, nor any other Christian organization. All right, real quick, I'm gonna get these announcements. Real quick. I would want to read Baba Kusha. I think it's past the class. This is where I passed the class to Officer Carl Sapar. You can come right over here, so and I'll face the camera towards you. And where it talks about the you too. All right. And then when it talks about the 6 months, it's just a year now. Okay.
Come. These are the ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months.
That's for the year, for off limits for a year.
They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. I believe that's changed to a year now. Right. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10, means 10th in the Hebrew, Ma'ashirah, 10% of every penny of any increase the Most High gives you. Give to the Treasury Department or teacher, priest fund. Free will offering for the priest, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations, I believe we had with the Feast of Memorial of blowing the trumpets. That's September the 21st. Okay, and if anyone wants to become a trooper in the school, start wearing all black. Boots, shirt, pants, head, band, and scarf. Want to salute the teacher, Amijah, men of Israel, Amijah Shabbat, Amijah, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Barakatah.
Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Barakatah.
Right? Salute the Yanamatah. Now we turn and salute the sisters. Amijah Shabbat, men of Israel, Amijah Shabbat, Amijah, Barak, Yahweh Shema and the Thun Ba'ashim Yahushua. Yadamitah, class dismissed. Wow, clap it up.
Hey, listen, brothers and sisters, man. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, man. Subscribe to this channel And also, please go to ISUPK.com and pay your tithe. Drop me some cash so we can move around this planet like we need to, man, and do the things we need to do.
Everyone west. Everyone west. Everyone west.